This video is part of the Recreation Inspiration Open Challenge for April. The theme is summer, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it after the first project. Okay, first project is Bloom and Grow with seed pots. It's loosely based on something done by Creative by Nature DIY and Decor. She put hers in a box, but I couldn't find a box that fit, so I decided to put mine on a take sign. Starting things off, I'm just going to apply about 1.5 coats of this Rust-Oleum Linen White chalk paint. And then I waited a while and also used my heat gun to make sure the paint was nice and dry before putting on some white wax. I'm going to be using a Chalk Couture letter stencils, and Chalk Couture sells their own surface wax, but I have white wax, so I decided to use that, and I've used it in the past, but I'm kind of wondering how it would look with just Mod Podge. Now your chalking result is going to be as perfect as your background, and since this was wood and paint and wax, you know, it's not going to be perfect, so it's always kind of neat to see how it comes out. So you want to get those up, you know, quickly after you chalk them, because you don't want the chalk paste to clog up the stencil. Now I'm going to have to use the letter O twice, so I make sure to use it like right away. Finish, put it back down again, and get more chalk paste on it before it starts to dry and clog up the stencil. Now, I got it right away and washed up all those, dried the letter O, make sure the adhesive was okay, and then came right back and did my second word. You'll notice the darker chalk paste will stain the stencil, but as long as you wash it out, it won't clog it up. And did you notice my letter W was upside down when I first put it on? Now, did I catch that before chalking? Yes, I did, but just before I chalked it. You notice I have a vintagey looking letter M in Bloom and the letter O in Grow, and I chose not to try and fix it or fill it in. I just left it. That vintagey look is often what we were going for. I sprayed it with some finishing spray. Then I got out my box of succulents. I believe these were purchased on Amazon, and when I did the math, it worked out to less than $1 each, so it's actually a better deal than if you got them at Dollar Tree. And also they're wired. Like when I was trying to trim them, there were wires inside. So I chose 2 that looked pretty, but that didn't take up too much room. Now I have this travel themed napkin, and I thought it fit nicely with Bloom and Grow, in the way that when you bloom and grow, you know, you find yourself or you travel. I just used some Mod Podge. You can cut little slits in the bottom and put Mod Podge on the bottom of the pot, or you can also just sort of fold it over itself. That's what they end up looking like. Now I'm coming in with my drill, and I'm making 2 holes side by side on either side of the sign. And that's where I chose to put my pots. I also put 2 holes side by side in each of the pots. You don't need a drill to put the holes in the pot. You could just like poke it with a pencil or something. I put the twine through the pot first, and then I put each side through the corresponding holes. Pulled them to the back and then tied a nice tight knot. And of course a little bow to finish it off. And I'm happy with how nice and firm the pot is against the sign, and it feels pretty secure. I forgot to show you putting the border on that first one. It's just like a medium width twine, because the tops of these pots aren't defined like in other pots. So I wanted to create a separation there. Now, I could have been finished, but I decided to do a little bit extra. Just had this random remnant of the napkin. You know, it just looks like a scrap. But I Mod Podged and dried the top of the tag and then put that scrap on there. And I just used a piece of paper towel to iron it down with my Hippo heat press. Had a little bit of trouble on the bottom there. I just used my X-Acto knife and pulled it off. And then I used a piece of sandpaper to sand off the edges. I love the look. It's a nice clean line. Looks like it was meant to be. And off camera, I tied some rope for the hanging and better look at the final reveal. Jumping in with a little bit more information about the playlist. It happens every month on the 8th. This month's theme is summer. Our hosts are Amanda from Six Kids and a Glue Gun and Charlene from Crafty Art Shack. Our guest host is Tammy from Happiness Created. All their channel links as well as a link to the playlist will be in my description box below. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the video. Okay, second project is a seed pot wreath. Inspired by an old Kelly Barlow video, she did a couple of different seed pot wreaths in hers, so I'm going to show you, and I'll have her information down below. So I thought, kind of like how the tag sign was the base for hanging the pots, I thought the wreath could be like the base for hanging these pots. So I'm putting mine on a little bit different than how Kelly did hers. I wanted farmhouse colors in this one because I had that bow that I had made for a previous project I'd never used, and it's just been staring at me for a while. So I thought, okay, that's a second inspiration for this particular project. So I made my pots white and black. And again, these pots don't have any definition up top like most, and so I created one with the paint. Now, like in the previous project, I'm going to poke some holes in the pot. So you sort of loop the rope through. And then for the bottom pot, I did the holes on top of each other. And then for the side ones, I did them next to each other. And you'll also notice on the wreath, I wrapped some twine around at the side to give the pots a little bit more to grab onto. I think I put a little bit of hot glue on the back too, but I wanted the twine to be what kept the pots in place. Then I have this burlap ribbon I've had for quite a long time and just didn't find a proper use for it until today. I just put a little bit of hot glue to start it off, and then for the most part just kind of wrapped it. I wanted the pots on first because I wanted to secure the pots to the wire in the wreath form, and then cover the rest of the wreath form with the ribbon. And it actually came out well, you know. It came out almost as close as what I saw in my mind. So that's always good. And then again at the end, I'm just going to trim it and do another little bit of hot glue to keep it in place. Sorry, I hit my microphone. Using my Temu finger protector there. Okay, I'm happy with how it looks so far, so I keep going. I'm going to fill those pots with some of that Temu floral foam. And this one's going to have lavender because I have a lot of lavender for one, but also I like the look of lavender with the farmhouse colors. So I'm trimming that pick down and making it look like almost like little sprouts of lavender. And I'm tucking in some of this reindeer moss I have, just sort of keep it more firmly in place. Because one of them kind of looked like they were going forward. Or no, they were going back into the pot, so I put some moss in the back to hold it better. And then I decided on some lamb's ear as well. That's just to firm up the lavender, but also for looks. I'm just going to cut the tails of the bow on an angle. I think that's what looks best. And a little bit of hot glue, I'll glue it right on the ribbon there. And that's basically it. I'll give you some better looks at it during the final reveal. Okay, this last project is a hanging seed pot basket based on this cute little bucket or basket. They're in the bottom left corner, and it's by a channel named Boutique Paint. I'll have their information below. This project only has one little seed pot, and we're going to give it a coat of white paint, just like the previous. And just be careful when you're painting. You don't want it too watery, and you don't want it too thick, because the material that the pot is made out of absorbs the moisture. So if you handle it, you could damage it. So just be careful. You'll notice I sort of make it a rough coat because I really don't want the paint to be too thick. But they are easy to paint, at least. Okay. The inspiration bucket had a cute little rooster on it, and I couldn't find anything comparable, but I did find this little farm themed calendar image, and I decided that would work. I keep forgetting though that the shape of the pot kind of makes it difficult when you decoupage, so just keep that in mind if you decide to recreate something like this. You might even want to cut it like more angled down to the bottom. And also the calendar image paper was kind of thick, so it was a little more difficult to decoupage than the napkin. Here I am twisting a piece of wired jute around my X-Acto knife, and that's just because I like the look of like curled wire, twisted wire, and since this had wire in it, I thought it would make a cute little handle for the bucket or basket. The thing is though, when all is said and done, is you really can't see a lot of it. I just made a loop on each side and glued it to the inside of the seed pot. So that little seed pot is going to be hanging off of this pallet. Definitely wanted to get some burnt umber rubbed into that wood. It's very blonde, and I just love the look of the burnt umber on blonde wood like this. So we did each piece of the palette, and then I used a paintbrush to get in between. And I didn't bother wiping this off because it's in a shadow anyway. Well, I should say I tried to wipe it off and it wasn't working, so I stopped. Okay, now this is just about placement. And I thought it looked good hanging low like that, and I put the little hook on the second slat there. And that's just, I have a bunch of hooks in my stash like that, bigger ones, smaller ones. That's the one I selected. So I went about decoupaging the image, and I ended up doing some little snips on the bottom because that was the easiest way to get it to attach on the lower section there. And then I also ended up putting Mod Podge over the top of the image because I needed to sort of soften it up to get it to stick to the shape of the pot, and that seemed like the best way to do it. I'm using some of that yellow lavender that I got from Temu. as well as the tips of some of the eucalyptus picks. Just the tips, because they have that cute little bloom on the tip. And I was actually able to push up some of the leaves and make the pot nice and full. And I'll get another one in there as well. So after looking at it, it just didn't look right. It was just way too low. And there was all this like blank space, dead space. So I took the hook out and I attached it to the top piece of the palette, the top slat. I twisted the handle to make the image front and center and better look at the final reveal.